and Eva both sounded really good. I was like, oh,
Well,
man, that made a difference.
Her sons were over here this week. So I said,
He
hey,
went
can
in,
you figure out what's
figured
going
out
on there?
something.
I'm going live here, so let's see.
Figured it out.
Okay, everybody, starting a little early to do some tests. First of all, how does the sound coming in? Is it better this week than it is usually? I suspect that it is. It's supposed to be. By the way, hi, Gold Panner.
There you go, Banner.
Yeah, Chris. Sound quality. How's the sound quality? We're doing a little test right now as everyone comes up. Sounds great. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this microphone off and see if that shuts off my sound. Okay. Then
Good.
It appears like Ryan did, in fact, get
Fix it.
things fixed.
It's fixed.
Okay. Hello,
Hey,
Terry.
hey.
Hi, Lars.
Hey, Terry.
I presume we're unmuted at the moment. Yep, you are back. Exactly. Okay, I was testing the mic. We actually have the proper mic working now. Yeah, you get a couple kids, they can fix this electronic stuff. Now have more noise than before coming through?
You're in the air conditioner, maybe?
What was moving there? Oh, no. We have an air conditioner going in the background.
That's
just kind
it,
of
as
moving
far
around
as
a
I
little bit.
know.
Anyhow, but we still have good quality sound. Oh, okay. When I go silent, it bumps up the gain. Yeah, it makes sense, Gold Panner. Makes sense. Okay, good. Apparently, we got the microphone situation fixed. Nothing like a couple of youngsters to get the electronics under control. Although, I think it was Ryan. I said, why can't it get the right video camera? And he says, it's YouTube. You just got to go to the other one and then come back. That's how it is. Yeah. What temperature do you need to roast? Basically, glowing a dull red. Dulling a glow red? Okay. Glowing a dull red. That's possible, Chris.
The chicken.
So anyhow, little housekeeping stuff here. First of all, some generally unimportant stuff for everyone else. Rick, got your money. And this is Australian money. This is from down understand. And it's kind of hard to describe. It's plastic. And it's really tough. Just can't tear this stuff. That's kind of pretty, but there's holograms and stuff in there, but it just looks weird to have holes in your money. But thank you, Rick. It's here. Everything worked fine. And right now, Eve and I are planning on putting it in a little hidey hole because I have a feeling it's not going to lose its value as fast as American money over the next couple of years. So, yeah, Gold Panner, I believe it's because it's cheaper and more secure. They use that really tough plastic so it doesn't wear out as often, and they can put more weird stuff in it. Tyvek-like, yeah, something like, I don't know, it's some tough stuff.
Pretty neat.
Tough stuff. But anyhow, so thank you, Rick. It has arrived, and I hope the plans are understandable and such. Now, tonight, Jim here is going to do a presentation on lithium initially. Then be time for Eva. She's got a box opening and some stuff on her tinfoil hat report. And then I will be doing my report on leaching because it's a little complex, not too much, but getting some of the feedback, it's clear that I haven't given a good solid overview of why you would leach, when it's best to leach, things like that. So I'll go into a little of the basics there and go from there. So this week we had the boys visit us, and that was great. As you could see from the little video, Eva was just thrilled. She really, really enjoyed it. And I must admit, I'm very, very happy. Those boys, both of them, know what they want to do in life, are doing what they want in life, and know where they want to go with that, and are getting there. And it's really, really nice, especially for Eva, to see her sons successful in that way in life, doing what they want, having a future at it, and really enjoying it and being good at it. So that was nice. Let's see. I messed up the recovery calculations, but it gave me a great video. It was a good example of how assuming something can come around to bite you in the butt. It turns out that by taking out the samples, I was pretty much causing the flat curves. And that's what happens when you screw up. Luckily, it was a cheap screw up. This is another reason you do laboratory scale testing first. If you make a screw up, it's a lot cheaper and faster to fix. So 93% recovery recovery into solution, 93% dissolution in 24 hours. That's pretty good. There is nothing wrong with that. So the next step, which has already been completed and the samples are at the lab, is we're starting the particle size testing. Those samples that you've seen the graphs on so far were finely ground. It was through my impact mill, and as such was pretty finely ground. Now there's a number of problems with it. Here's the recovery curve, and that's pretty darn good into solution. But then you've got to get it out of solution. And in order to get it out of solution, you've got to do a number of other stages. It would be really nice to have a clean solution to do those too. Hi, Truth Seeker. And so the finer the grind, not only is it the harder to do in general, but it also causes a lot of slimes, a lot of really fine stuff, which makes it difficult to settle, difficult to filter. It's just a pain in the butt. Hey, Utah. And so you really want to try and find what the proper balance point of where do you grind to. That's what I'm doing right now using 16 mesh. And I will get those results this week, put up a video. We can discuss the details next week, but that's what I'm doing. And one thing that was kind of interesting is that because I was using the new method where I have 5 different samples, all essentially the same, I was trying, I can go ahead and change the pH a little bit and see what happens. Hey, Busted, how's it going?
Hi, everybody.
And there was one sample I put no lime in whatsoever. Hello, Gold Wolf Man. And it settled just fine. The lime itself was generally considered to be a flocculant. In other words, make things stick together. It's apparently undergoing some kind of chemical reaction and turning it into a dispersant instead. So if we can get by without lime, we can get this stuff to settle real well. And that's very, very helpful. If we need to have some pH adjustment, aside from what the natural ore is, we can probably use just a little bit of lye. The way you would apply that carefully into solution is you just mix up a solution of it and then add solution. It's a lot easier dealing with dry lye.
Hello, David.
Hey, David. And so that's an alternative that may save us a lot of other headaches in the process. But I will get into that when I get into the leaching stuff. And Eve and I were at Montana Bee this weekend. I've got a video already made up. I'll be posting it, I presume, tomorrow. And it was rather warm, not horribly so, but enough to take a bit of a toll. And Eva was a little droopy. I don't know if I was so much droopy as I did some repairs down the decline too. And I must have climbed that 40-foot ladder approximately 20 times. I would say at least 20 times. It might have been as many as 30. But if you do the math, that's like between 800 and 1,200 feet of ladder. My legs were not happy with me. So anyhow, that's basically how my week went. How's yours?
Well, Thursday and Friday, I spent mapping and doing some ground sampling and stuff on the copper project. So we were up there with 2 geologists and spent 2 days working, getting everything noted that we needed on maps and stuff. And it was hot and miserable, and that was a lot of up and down also. And then over the weekend, I kind of tried to stay out of the heat as much as I could to recover.
Yeah, even this Arizona boy much prefers exercising in the cool. Another thing I did was while we were at Montana Bee, I also very carefully examined where some safe zones might be in case of a forest fire. We can monitor things on the cell phones, but if a thunderstorm blows up or something and starts a fire fairly close by, we need to know the closest space we could drive to, light the grass on fire, burn out an area, and park the truck in it and do it. It's only about 5 minutes away, without just going crazy fast in the truck. So not too bad. And hello, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
So that was another little safety precaution we took. I do not want to get burned up.
No.
Okay. It's pretty much up there. It's a little bit below being skinned alive on my really don't want to go this way things. But I mean, it's definitely not on my, that would be a good way to go list. So
No, not in a forest fire.
I needed some place that was far enough from anything of any size that if we just light a fire and let the grass burn out, we then just park the Bago there and get in the back where we're protected from any kind of radiant heat and just wait it out. And it's pretty close. In that area there is very little. I mean, it's just light grass and a few
Mountain mahogany or something.
No, sagebrush. And then junipers like every 100 feet, with little junipers there in that particular area. So pretty darn safe. You just screwed if you get a lightning storm up there.
Oh yeah. No, we got Man, that's
actually, Chris, we got cell phone coverage there. It would be nice. We're working on some stuff, and I'd also like to get a G-Perb if needed. That would be nice to have. But we were. It's not that far out in the sticks. We can actually get cell phone coverage from there, strangely enough. But I texted you.
Yeah.
From camp.
Yeah. No, it's texting. A lot of times will go through and a phone call won't too. Also,
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Jason. If you can send me your contact information, I'll check out what you've got there. There's my email address. You can send me a link. And because you're kind of unexpected, make sure you put in the subject line or something, I'm the guy from China that talked to you on your live stream. Otherwise, I'll just assume it's spam and Delete it.
Yeah.
Okay. Send up smoke signals. David, forest fire, smoke signals? The signal to noise ratio would suck.
Just good.
Okay. I'm not even sure where these cell towers are. I suspect they're like 15 miles away because there's no reason that you can see to have cell phone coverage. I'm thinking we might actually be getting to Three Forks or on the road somewhere to
There's
Three
one,
Forks.
I think there's one at Townsend.
That's
above Westmont up there.
maybe.
Or Graymont, whatever the company is.
I don't know,
The
but
line company.
When we were at the camp, we don't have a line of sight there at all. It's through the mountain, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, you could be bouncing that far south. You could be bouncing all the way down there to Three Forks, somewhere over toward Three Forks.
Yeah, or along the road 230.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of convenient. So far, every place we've gone, we've had cell coverage. It's like, wow, there's something to be said about this. But
Yeah, up where I'm at, you don't. Once you get back in far enough here, you're done.
yeah, no, it's pretty handy. And I say we were monitoring things. If a fire started near us, where it shows up on the map or this or that,
Or you can see it.
We'll
you
just
know, you can
get out of there. Yeah.
If it's close enough, you'll see smoke.
Well, there's a lot of smoke out there right now, but it's kind of the
but
diffuse kind.
Yeah.
It's pretty smoky up here right now.
Oh yeah.
It's like a medium overcast day
Well,
all day long.
we had a fire right up Grizzly Gulch right here out of town, and then they had another one up by Park Lake farther back in, and now over by Basin somewhere they got one burning over on the edge of the Elkhorns, the other edge of the Elkhorns. So I mean, we got a few close.
We've also got all that stuff coming in from Idaho. I got a bunch over there
Oh yeah,
near the Panhandle.
Yeah. Well, then southwestern Montana has some pretty bad ones too.
Yep.
Yeah, they said that Oregon fire now is 300,000 acres. It's burned.
Jason Mying says he's got flotation stuff too. Use colored smoke. Gee, man,
Just better.
always a smart aleck.
Just better to have an out, to have a way out and get out.
Yeah.
Where
And once we get, say, the first safe zone, from there about another half a mile, then it becomes just basically real gently rolling hill plain sort of thing. And as even was saying, just wait for the fire to burn across the road and funny, and then just drive to the burned out spot.
Yeah, right. Get on
You're
the other
safe.
side.
So anyhow, long night ahead. Okay. Yeah, David, you got them lined up, huh? You have your list. Yeah, I'd say we were pretty situationally aware, and just wanted to make sure. Let's say specifically, if a fire lit up, it could be an accidental man-caused fire or something. Just north of us, there's national forest in there, and you could have lightning strike, man-caused, who knows what. But if the wind was blowing the wrong way, those things can get going pretty good, pretty fast. So
Another suggestion, and we ran into one of the forest guys the other day up there, and the first thing he wanted to see was our fire extinguishers and check them. And luckily, I had two of them in the pickup. Because the last time I was up there, I didn't, but I thought, I better throw some gear in just in case. But they were checking vehicles to make sure if you were up in the woods, you had fire extinguishers with you.
well, that was one of the things about having the kettle corn business. I got plenty of fire extinguishers because it's cheaper to buy a new one when it gets out of date than it is to get it refilled and recertified.
Well, I usually always carry at least one, but I happen to have two in the pickup. And then, of course, I had, a grub hoe and an axe and shovels all handy that you can easily jump out of the truck and grab them.
Yep.
you just because you may end up having to battle a fire at some location, or at least rake out around you
Along
to
the
keep from
freeway,
burning.
maybe. Even,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. You don't, this time of the year, you don't know.
No. And yeah, if you can keep it small, that's good. Shovel, yeah. Bucket? Oh,
Oh yeah, you got to have the toilet paper all the time. That's a must-have.
nah. I've got a mattock and I've got an axe. I could make like a Polanski. But anyhow, so that's basically what we've been doing now. Jim here has a presentation on lithium.
Well, we've been asked a couple times about lithium, so I thought tonight I would cover it lightly. If you guys want to do your own homework on more of it, that's just fine by me. But from I guess some of the things I learned doing some research over the last year or so was, as far as like brine situations and that. That's a little far out. Pull it up. See if that helps a little, not much. But as far as brine situations, that's where a lot of it you're hearing about is coming from at this point. Geothermal water, inland salt basins, petrolithium out of oil field recovery salt water. Your biggest producers right now are Chile, Argentina, Australia, China, and Utah and Nevada here in the United States. There is locations in eastern, up in Massachusetts and that, where they've got some hard rock, South Dakota, California, of course. Looking at it as an advantage to trying to find lithium, I don't know. I mean, it is normally in hard rock, it'll be in a granitic pegmatite. Basically batholithic, like we have in this area.
You want to define that a little bit better for the people who don't know?
Well, batholith is basically intrusive granites or forms of granite that were mineralized coming up. So if you can get into your pegmatites on those edges, or where you've got basically some kind of crystals forming within the rock, there's a good chance that if you tested it, you'd have some lithium. Most of your ore grade of lithium is going to be 1% to 2%. Up in Ontario, Canada, they have a hard rock mine right now that they are running ore that's actually at 3.5%, which is about the highest, I think, anywhere in the world it's actually been found. Coming right out of the ground at 3.5% in the rock. In hard rock, it's treated the same as the things we're doing with the gold and the silver and that. It's crushed and refined, and then they use flotation for separation. And basically they end up with a lithium carbonate after the flotation. Then they come in and add sodium hydroxide to it and go to a lithium hydroxide. That's basically what they're using for the batteries now, is a lithium hydroxide is ideally what they're going after. The main ore mineral is spodumene. That the U is spodumene, I believe. Spodumene. I guess you could say spodumene. I'm not going to argue with anybody on pronunciation there. Which is a pyroxene. So it's lithium aluminum inosilicate is the ore. And when it's concentrated after it's processed and concentrated, it can be concentrated up to about only around 8 to 9%. So it's not even a really dense concentration for going into the flotation system.
Spodumene.
Spodumene. Yeah.
Spodumene. That's how you're supposed to say it.
Spodumene.
I guess.
Spodumene.
All right. I guess that is economics of it. If you're going to go looking for lithium or wanted to get into a lithium type of industry, mining, I would look at probably the battery recycling business. Recycling lithium back to use again would be an interesting big concept going forward in a business. And petrolithium, the wastewater coming off these oil wells, like here in Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Texas, Oklahoma, all the oil states, the wastewater carries enough lithium in it that if the wastewater was processed correctly, and some of the oil companies are trying to do stuff with it, but that would be a good area of trying to get some expertise, is dealing with wastewater product coming from the oil field, because the amount that could be done once you figured out a good system, you could sell that system through the entire oil industry all around the world. So that's where I'd be looking if you want to make money.
Our batteries are dependent on maintaining
oil.
fossil fuel.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yes.
That'd be hilarious.
Well, the largest known brine deposits are actually in Bolivia, which is a country right now that is so unstable and it's never actually been, never even tried to mine it.
Yeah.
But they say Bolivia has like 26% of the world's lithium up there in those salt flats.
Okay.
Chile is doing some work in Argentina. Western Australia, they're doing brine. They're talking about somebody setting up something down on the Salton Sea right now that they're working on down there. A brine facility. But the brine ponds and doing evaporation for lithium, for brine, salt brine, is like a 2-year it's a slow process to otherwise the amount of energy it takes to do that same thing is cost prohibitive for the value of the lithium.
Yeah.
So I mean, lithium as a mineral to go chasing after is probably not, unless you have a lot of money behind you, is probably not the thing to be looking for necessarily.
Well, if you found a good deposit, you might be able to claim it and sell it.
Right. If you identified a hard rock deposit in the granite somewhere, in the pegmatites, it could possibly be worth, selling to somebody else. But the cost of setup and what they're doing to process it, it's an expensive operation.
I'm going to be talking about lithium today too.
Wow, man! Everyone's on lithium today.
Well, they're calling it the new green gold. And there's probably some truth in that, but it's mainly the big companies that have the money to, really go out and try to dial it in, because the recovery is such low. Yeah. It's a lot of rock and like here in Montana, this would have to be an open pit, basically.
Yeah. Good
luck. It'll take you by the time you get it permitted, the lithium price will be down to nothing probably. So those things have to factor into what you're doing too. What's the long range opportunities? And I would say, honestly, recycling of batteries coming out of used electric cars or actually rechargeable lithium batteries.
Concentrated.
There's already all this rechargeable equipment out there that are using lithium batteries. Work on the recycling side. There's an opportunity.
Makes too much sense.
There's an opportunity. And like I say, the other good one that really needs some more science put into it is the oil field wastewater, the salt water coming out of these oil fields. Well, and there's other metals in that can be pulled also. It's not just the lithium metal. There's other metals in that.
Turn the hazardous waste into a useful feedstock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the smart way of doing it.
I just thought I would slightly kind of cover this tonight a little bit for, people, if nothing else, maybe we all learned something else. Yeah, that's true, Chris. Desalination plants also create brine. Now, where they're at and what they're doing for other separation, I don't know.
When we were at the Panamint Valley,
I don't know if the ocean is carrying that much lithium as far as actual salt water.
Probably not that
It's
much.
Probably not concentrated as much as those inland basins and those deep basin drilling.
Yeah.
Ideally, they like hydrothermal water. They like the hot water anywhere there's hot springs in that, because that tends to carry more metals. You know,
Yellowstone.
yeah,
Let's drill Yellowstone.
Yeah, I just, if we can continually cover a kind of a different subject having to do with it's mining, this is mining, kind of add a different level and look at different concepts out there.
Yeah, because the other thing is when you're out in the field, you may stumble across something pretty useful. Like when we were at the I Break for Bedrock claim,
Yep.
those rocks were real pretty. When you got a boulder this big that looks like nothing but silver flakes, that would make really good landscaping rock. Oh, that was some pretty
or
looking
even,
stuff.
material to cut, and things like that to make specimens out of.
Yeah, I say in this case, I don't know how good a cutting stone it would have been.
Yeah, gold panner. That
Just laying around.
Massachusetts has got some good hard rock. And northeastern Ontario, there's some big areas up there that they're really looking at right now. And one of those mines, like I was saying, had a 3.5% grade on that rock up in northeastern Ontario there. And that's interesting because they said as far as hard rock goes, that's one of the highest values anybody's ever seen.
Now, do you want to explain how a pegmatite is formed, or
Go
do you want
ahead.
me to? Okay.
Go ahead.
Pegmatite is, by definition, it simply means the crystals are so big. I think it's about
Linear
a
crystal.
little over an inch. You take granite, it's usually got smaller crystals and this sort of the other. A pegmatite is formed as your magmatic intrusion, as your molten rock is cooling. Certain things will crystallize first. You can have your chromite and things like that. Your platinum group metals crystallize very high temperatures, so they're probably crystalline already in the magma. And if the magma is fairly thin and hot, those will tend to settle to the bottom of the magma chamber and form what they call a sill deposit, like dust on a windowsill, and get concentrated that way. As the magma cools, it has water dissolved in it. And as it cools, this water starts to be rejected by the melt and form what they call magmatic waters, which are super concentrated solutions of things at very high temperatures. And as these last little bits of your magma are solidifying, that's where you can get ore bodies. That's where you get your pegmatites and these sort of things. That's where you get your big crystals. Okay. And so it's that last bit as everything else kind of crystallizes out, the things that don't fit, the oddballs, the small percentages and stuff, those are the ones that are continually being rejected until finally it's nothing but the oddballs are left. And that's where you get your pegmatites and some of your really high grade ore bodies from that, because the atoms don't fit in the crystal lattice of the mass rocks that form the batholith once it solidifies. So that's basically what a pegmatite is, and they're defined by large crystals. I mean, literally, that's the definition.
Yeah.
And they can be big crystals.
Well, they can be even a lot bigger than that.
But that's basically, if it's got big crystals, it's a pegmatite. In general. So that's what a pegmatite is. So if you're looking and you see veins or masses near intrusive bodies like granites and diorite stuff, if you see a lot of things with big crystals, those are pegmatites, and those can have some interesting stuff in them. And so you can keep an eye open for that. What the heck? When you're out in the field, a little knowledge and an open mind can be very useful. The Comstock lode in Virginia City was discovered because somebody recognized what that ugly rock was. It was high-grade silver ore, but the people in the area had never seen it before. And so he took it to an assay lab. Turned out it was high grade silver. Staked it. Voila! One of the biggest silver deposits in the world. Yeah, having a battery blow up. There's a lot of energy in a charged lithium battery. They have taken down airplanes.
Burn up.
Yeah, I believe there was some of that too, Chris.
Yeah.
It's like platinum was discovered in South America because it was plugging the sluices down there.
Yeah, nuggets of platinum.
And they're throwing away the platinum because they can't melt it. They can't do anything
They
with
didn't
it.
know what it was. Yeah. So what is this?
Yep. So anyhow,
So one more thing to, keep an eye out in the field if you get into an area where you do see a lot of crystallization or you're finding crystals as a collector. It might be an area to check it for lithium, have the testing done.
well, this brings up another subject that will kind of segue into what Eva's going to do tonight. You got your wiper with you there?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Go ahead. And you have these people that seem to be of the opinion that, mines and mills and stuff, or you just turn a key and there it is and everything is fine and stuff. But that's not how reality works. And you have a lot of things before you produce the product. So let's see, the black one didn't work too well,
The
did it?
black was starting to get a little
Okay.
weak.
So the way that big mining works, world scale mining, like for copper, iron, things like that, is first you have exploration. Okay. Now exploration, I think that's readable, although I should probably write bigger next time. Anyhow, exploration means prospecting.
Yep, that's what we're doing.
And the big mines are relatively rare.
Yeah,
You don't find a world-class ore body very often. It happens, but not very often. Usually you find smaller ore bodies and they provide useful amounts when you aggregate them together.
right.
But nevertheless, the major world supply doesn't come from small miners.
Nope.
I don't care what it is. I'm unaware of anything where small miners produce more than 50% of whatever it is. And so the big companies will have an entire division whose job is finding the next big ore deposit.
Mhm.
And it may take them a long time. It may take them a decade or more to find one new mine for something like Broken Hill Proprietary or Newmont or
Right.
something like that. They
Yep.
just don't find them every week. So your exploration is years between mines. Then the next thing is your I'll call it delineation.
Mapping.
And that is taking this showing of material, of useful stuff, and determining how big is it, how concentrated is it, how easily can you get it out of the rock. I mean, there's places where there's a lot of good stuff, but it's mixed up with some other stuff in such a way that you can't make a
Right.
profit.
Right. Like what we're doing on our copper project.
Mhm.
Basically, I found it by prospecting. I mean, we were actually mining a drainage over the mountain from it about 3 miles away. But we kept trying to delineate why did the gold quit where it quit? Because there was no hard rock mines or anything to say that there's major vein structure. The coarseness of the gold told us there is one there somewhere.
The source is close.
Right, we were close to source, so we start delineating, going through the hills, start trying to figure this out, where we go. And over the next 7 years, I basically started to create my own map of the whole area of every drainage that had placer gold to try to figure out where is that mother lode system of that
Right.
thing. Well, it ends up it's a major copper anomaly, and everything that leaves it on the outside perimeter is gold bearing.
Mm-hmm.
And it like I say, it took me 7 years of walking every one of them drainages and up and over every hill and taking rock samples. And, I put a lot of effort into this initially.
So it only took a decade to be an overnight success.
Yeah, right. So, and at this point now, I've got major companies looking at it because of the groundwork that I did, which may have been able to be compressed time-wise a little different had I realized just how big of a deal it was.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe could have done it in 2 years. The fact is I was still looking for gold. The copper just wasn't, something I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But when the sampling started coming back that, oh man, this has a lot of copper and I went through and mapped every little mine working all the way through on this property. I mean, everywhere that there are copper showings or I had high readings of copper from assays. And I completely built my own map for that whole area over there, which now covers, I don't know, about 2 miles by 7 miles. And I pretty much know every little spot in it that there was anybody even did a little test hole.
Yeah. But now, from this point, the next thing you guys are going to have to do is drilling and geological
What
work,
we've
right?
been doing right now is we've been actually doing like soil sampling across the faces of what we think are the strikes.
Structures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been doing soil sampling and assay samples across it and GPSing each coordinate as to the sample. And it's gotten more and more complex. The next is going to be electronics up there.
And
We're going to, do some IP testing on a couple ends because right now we're trying to dial in on some drill sites.
Yep. Because that's the next thing. You can do surface sampling pretty cheaply. You can do geophysics fairly cheaply.
Yeah.
Drilling
Starts
ain't
to get
cheap.
well, if you're doing reverse circulation for your first tests,
How about getting the truck up there?
well, yeah, possibly getting a road in or dragging equipment in.
Road building
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
No, none of it's cheap really, but if you don't first find it, then there's nothing to go after anyway.
Exactly.
You have to locate
So
it.
you're kind of in here.
Yep.
And then this theoretically yields proven reserves. Now, the chances of it providing enough proven reserves for a world-class ore body is pretty small. Usually, in this process is where the big boys
Walk away.
Yep.
Yep. The values aren't there. They walk away.
A lot of times they do find a significant amount of material there, but it's just not big enough for them.
Right.
If you're a home builder, you don't want to build a doghouse. You want to build homes.
Yep.
So they'll walk away from it. And that's where there's a lot of potential information out there for the small guy. There's a lot of opportunities
Oh yeah.
that these guys don't care about. But now that you got proven reserves, then the real work starts in terms of trying to put it in production. You're going to have a lot of drilling.
Yep.
You got to drill off a big area on a fairly tight drill, kind of like 100-foot centers for a copper ore body generally.
Yep.
Something like that. You may be drilling 1,000 to 2,000 feet deep. You may have a square mile that you punch holes every 100 feet,
Yep.
2,000 feet deep.
Yep.
Could you hand me my calculator there? What does that come out to?
A lot of length.
Let's say 1 square mile, 100 feet by, so 5,280 divided by 100, so 53 holes by 53 holes. Huh?
Yep.
So we got 53 times 53 times 1,000. 2,809,000 feet of drill hole.
Yep.
At $20, $30 a foot, something like that.
Probably more than that. Probably
Okay.
60 with reverse circ.
So
You go to core drilling.
1.6 billion or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
you go to
168 million. I don't know. It's went and redone my decimal point going to exponential notation. But anyhow, that's a crap load of money.
yeah, it can get real expensive.
It can get real
fast.
expensive. Then you have to do capital expenditures and permitting. Now you will have to do some permitting just to get these done.
Yep.
You know, you're already doing
Yep.
permitting
Well,
up here.
Right, we're already in it.
But to get your final permits to actually operate a mine,
That could take a long time.
and it can
all by
take hundreds
itself.
of millions of dollars nowadays in developed countries.
Yep.
The capital expenditures for a world-class operation, $500 million to $1 billion, to build your mill, to
Yep.
bring in the initial equipment, the
Power,
power, water,
your
roads,
holding ponds or what.
all the infrastructure
Yep.
you're going to need. And so this whole process here does not happen overnight. This will take usually decades. If you're in a big hurry, say like World War II, to where permitting doesn't matter, you already had some proven reserves proved up, you can probably condense this into 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
Okay? If the only thing stopping you was just how fast can you build stuff,
Mhm.
okay, you're still looking at 2 to 3 years. So when your industry has a long period of depressed prices, well, the companies that do it, they save money by just, we'll find a couple and we'll just sit on them and wait for the price to get better. And this creates a very cyclical situation in the mining industry. And I mean, we're talking decades, 20-year cycle, 50 years.
I think they figured mining's a 50-year cycle.
It probably depends on the particular commodity.
Right.
Yeah.
And the value of the commodity. I mean, like in gold, it's been, 50 years since, 71.
So when somebody says, well, when we need it, we'll just go get it. That's not the way the real world works.
And unfortunately, that's what the green industry here seems to think, though, is we can just build this stuff.
We can just say we're
And
going
it's
to.
like, well, if you need silver, where are you going to get it? You can go down and try to buy an ounce of silver right now. It's almost impossible. So if you need tons of it, I don't know. You might be totally out of luck in being able to even acquire it.
So this whole life cycle, man, once you get one of these world-class mines, it may operate for 40 or 100 years. It's not unusual for the initial mine life to be estimated at 40 years or something, and then they just keep finding new reserves, or they keep improving the technology. You get bigger trucks and things like that.
They can take a lower volume once the mill is somewhat paid for.
Yeah.
You can drop the
ore grade.
The ore grade cutoff. The cutoff grade can come down sometimes if the capital costs initially were paid by the original development.
Yeah. But when these people say, we'll just go get it when we need it, that's not reality. It's not the way it's going to happen. You're going to have shortages.
Well,
And they're talking about this Green New Deal where we're going to need lithium, we're going to need rare earths, we may need silver. I think that's for the photovoltaic cells, or I'm not sure.
I think so. Yeah.
But anyhow, you have all these minerals that they don't have,
Copper.
that they can't
The
build it if they don't have it.
Yeah, the amount of copper that with everything to make solar and batteries and everything, the amount of copper alone is phenomenal of what we're going to need. And copper actually, as far as mines, has been dropping off little by little all over the world.
Eva will have some interesting
Yeah,
information on
it's-
that, I believe.
I won't have anything yet on copper.
That's all right.
I'm disappointed.
It,
Well, there's no real copper
You know,
in the news this week. Everybody's talking
so
about
going,
lithium
you know,
developments.
going forward, we're going to be needing minerals and mineral development.
Well, I say this is where the whole situation. Nothing happens overnight. It takes long lead times, and anyone who's betting the farm that they can just bring this stuff back online quick is an idiot. Yeah, exactly, David. And that's the thing. It's like, oh, we'll just depend on the Chinese, and if at any time the Chinese, our wonderful friends, decide to try cutting us off, well, we'll just mine it our own then. Well, we're not going to be able to mine it ourselves then. We might mine it ourselves
10 years
in
down the
5 or
road,
10
right?
years
Yeah.
if the greenies don't stand in the way. Now,
Wow.
lately that has pretty much not ever happened. They always stand in the way.
Oh, yeah.
And they're one of the reasons we're in this situation, because they won't let them build the stuff that we need to get things under control.
Well, that's
And so it,
well. Unfortunately, the general public does not understand that. You know, like even here in Montana, yes, we had a lot of cyanide problems and a lot of acid mine drainage problems in the past, but the science, most of those mines closed before 1980 and went out of business.
okay, I'll go with that.
You know, about that time period. Well, the difference in science now of what we know and what we can control from 1980 till now is just like the cell phone or anything else. It's Star Wars from what we could do prior to that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can do clean mining and we can do a much better environmental job all the way across the board. It's just to be able to show that and do that, because the media and everybody else has been so against mining because of what happened in the past.
Well, in
And
the
it's-
past, politicians have started wars and killed people, so
Right.
we should eliminate politicians.
I agree.
Same reason.
Right.
We should ban politicians because they're bad.
You know, unfortunately,
historically.
you can't even go educate some kids on mining because they bring up the word and people start going into convulsions.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this can be done in a way that will not hurt a damn thing.
And David, you can sluice copper, but it's rare that you have
Very rare.
metallic copper
Yeah.
in nature because it's too reactive. Although just
Little
south
bit
of
in
here, they
Michigan.
did have some tin placers.
Yeah, there was tin plat, and they did have native copper, like in northern Michigan, that you could actually pick up in the creeks and stuff.
Oh yeah, acid mine drainage, problem created because they were forced to abandon them.
Well, that's part of it too, Chris. You're right that, you know, the economics went out of it and everybody walked away because there was no regulation to clean it up. That's true.
I mean,
You know, and so,
mining needs regulations,
definitely, and we, you know,
but they have to be reasonable.
well, and you have to be able to look at the economics and decide, okay, is it worth mining here? You know, there is probably some places that are not worth mining at that it's happened.
Yeah, David, amazing how the Chinese are moving into Afghanistan real quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
Afghan has a lot of minerals.
Yeah.
And yeah, this whole thing, if people would think before acting, life would be a lot simpler. But you're not going to do that, especially with crowds. Crowds are not thinking organisms.
Yeah, you got a point, Jeff.
Yeah. No, I say it's, and here's another thing too. You've all heard the term proven reserve. Well, as you can see, this whole process to get to proven reserves is fairly complicated and fairly expensive. Certain things
It's time consuming too.
but certain things takes a lot more than others. For example, oil. That's one you hear a lot about. You know, that there's only so much oil. We got about 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
Well, here's the funny thing.
I've heard that
for your whole life.
Yeah, my whole life.
And there's a reason.
We got
Because
more.
again,
We're drilling more than we
you
ever
got
did.
your exploration.
Yeah.
Now, in the early stages of exploration, they can do testing, seismic and stuff, and find what you would call
Anomalies,
or good targets.
right?
Okay. But to drill that target
Can be $1 million, one drill hole.
easily.
Yep.
When you're out in the ocean, it gets a lot more.
Yep.
So in order to see what's there, let's say you have a anticline here, and you got some oil underneath it. Okay, and here's the surface, be it ocean or rock. So you drill one hole down here, and you find, we got oil. This well's doing great. Well, now, if you want to drill enough holes in this to prove that reserve, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
Okay, a lot of money to prove that reserve. Now, let's suppose you have enough proven reserves that you're not going to need this for 12 years.
Then they just cap it.
You just let it sit there. We'll drill it up because they'll have a number of these
Yep.
good high probability prospects.
Yep.
And they know that
Yep.
so many percentage of them will turn out.
Maintain the permit.
And so they will just let it sit there until they need to prove a reserve. Because if it costs $1 billion and you're not going to need that for 10 years, what's the interest on $1 billion over 10 years?
I don't know.
It's more than I make.
Yeah, you
I know
definitely
that.
want a return on your money.
But here's another funny thing. Proven reserves are taxable. In certain cases, at least in the gold mining in California, probable reserves are not taxable. So we had a mine, and we kept 2 years of reserves. Because you have the surface of the earth, here's your mineralized ore body, you punch some holes. Now, if you drill these holes at 200-foot intervals, you can get a certain probability that this stuff between them is going to run a certain grade.
Mhm.
Okay? But it's less than 75%. Okay? Now, if you come here and drill this off at 100-foot intervals, it's still less than 75%, which I believe in Imperial County, California, was proven reserves. But if you drill it off at 50-foot intervals, now it's greater than 75%, and it's a proven reserve, and you pay property tax on it. We paid $300,000 a year for a 20-man operation in property tax alone. Now, do you see why we never had more than 2 years of proven reserves?
Yeah.
Because we just needed
You're burning
to have,
up 1 year, you're working into the second. Now you got a couple years.
we only
ahead of
needed
you.
enough so that we could plan the pit efficiently ahead of us.
Right.
All this stuff over here, we're just going to move the pit over there.
Just,
We got a good idea what's there. That's good enough for now.
right.
And so every business
The
does
whisper.
this, and that is why for the last 100 years, there has been between 10 and 15 years of proven oil reserves. And it has never exceeded those bounds because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
It was just a waste of money. And one thing big companies have is accountants.
An important part.
And they've got boards of directors. And they have these meetings where the accountants present their stuff. And if you're on the board and you vote to waste a bunch of money, not only can you get fired, you can be held criminally accountable for failing your fiduciary duty to the
Right.
shareholders.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a real strong motivation not to have more than so many reserves. So whenever you hear them say there's only so many proven reserves, say,
There's a reason.
what is the geologic and probable reserves? And they'll go, huh? What does that matter? Because that's what they think they found
Right.
already.
Right.
And that's not just what they could find if they used other techniques. In oil, for example, they come up with new techniques like increased use of fracking of shale oil.
Yeah. They
And
were
things
just
like
even
that.
like downhole seismic.
You know,
That's kind of something that's newer in the last, 20 years. But
Yeah.
they're doing seismic right down the old wells.
oh yeah. They're doing all kinds of things, and it allows them to do things cheaper. Things become one thing that I think
Well,
is
the
really
accuracy has even gotten better.
cool. They can drill off a square mile from one rig right now.
Well, that's what they did on my dad's in North Dakota. They
Yeah.
drilled 4 wells from the middle of 4 sections. They drilled a well into that section, that section, that section, all 4 different directions from
Yep.
one pad that was about, I don't know, maybe an acre and a half or
Yep.
something. They were not very big, and put all their tanks in right there and all the well heads in one spot.
And by improving your efficiency, you decrease your cost. Now, what was was not a reserve before because it wasn't profitable,
Yeah.
is now a proven reserve.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's basically how the reserves work, and that was one thing that I knew Eva was researching, but I guess she hasn't finished it this week. So I don't know, but say watch out for these people with their numbers, because as I think as Mark Twain said, figures don't lie, but liars figure.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
pretty much.
and what was the other one? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So anyhow, that's basically some of the background on why things happen the way they do. And when you're looking at the news, when you're looking at them talking about, well, the copper, reserves are not adequate for 10 years out or whatever, they can see these things coming a long way off sometimes. They can really see it, but until government changes policies, they can't do a damn thing about it.
Well, and even in gold, I mean, you could have a placer that would be non-economic, like it was a few years ago when gold dropped back down to under $1,000 an ounce. I mean, some of what we were even on at that point becomes non-economic. There's no profit potential. So you're better off in a situation like that to park and go find another property to work on that's higher value from a financial aspect, and then come back. Like right now, when you got gold at all of a sudden it's $1,800, let's say. Now that property at 1,000 that wasn't economic suddenly has an $800 an ounce profit.
Well,
So now it's like, okay, now we could go back and mine that economically and make money.
well, and why would you work your ass off to lose money?
Well, and burn up equipment.
If
That's
you're
the
going to be
thing.
broke, you might as well be drinking a beer and watching TV.
Yeah, right. Well, stay home and watch cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so that's where the situation gets in big trouble. And say you have some people who are watching these things and can see the shortages coming years and years away. And they try in some cases to sound the alarm, and people like AOC don't care. They can't crunch numbers. They don't understand reality. And so it doesn't make sense to them why the government just can't mandate it, because the government can make you do this and make you do that. Why can't they make you produce copper? Because there has to be copper to produce, and there's certain things you have to do it.
Yes, Kevin, you do pay taxes on it if it's like Keith said, a proven reserve. They consider that money in the bank.
Yeah.
Even though it's not out of the ground.
Yeah, it's just like if you have a building. It doesn't matter if you're using it or not.
Right.
It's still got property tax on it.
Yep.
And so that's why the prudent miner pays attention to these things, because they can get expensive. I mean, a 20-man operation, $300,000 a year,
Adds up.
300 divided by 20. So they could have paid each one of us another $15,000 a year if they didn't have to pay that property tax. That's how much money we're talking about. Each one of us, our share of that property tax was $15,000 a year. Yep. And so that's why. And then Chris bringing up a point. It's based on percent of value. And guess who gets to calculate the value? The government, who gets the 1%.
Right.
Do you think they're going to be nice to you? and give you every break they can seems unlikely.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just insane, but it's a racket. Yeah, Kevin, that's
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Tax it
That-
ahead of time and then tax it again later.
That's like the estate tax. You earned your money, you saved it, you bought some property or whatever. Now that you die, your kids have to pay taxes on it when everything that used to acquire it had taxes paid on it. Absolutely. That's why the estate tax, in my opinion, is, of course, I don't even like the income tax. You shouldn't.
Income tax is theft, period.
You shouldn't penalize production,
Nope.
which is what income tax does.
Yep.
You sit there and you say, because you were productive, you're going to pay more money. Kind of disincentivizes being productive, doesn't it?
Well, that's what's happened to the country.
Yeah, look at it right now. You
Yeah.
can't find people to flip burgers because it makes more money to sit at home. It's called a disincentive, or in economics, they also call it a malincentive. Yeah. So yeah, it's bad juju. Yep, you're right, Jeff. The whole politics of envy is
And by
it's
the
so
way,
counterproductive.
a big thank you to Jim for these. These are yummy.
Yeah, Jim has his little circuit where he gets out of date merchandise and stuff, and he's been a real help.
Jim is the food fairy.
I don't know about fairy.
I think you can use that word
The
anymore.
Prince of Food, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So, anyhow, yeah, exactly, David. The politicians can literally take the money from people's pockets and give it to themselves. You notice during all this COVID, how many government employees were laid off without pay? Anyone know of any? The teachers who weren't doing
They
anything.
got paid.
In a side note on that issue, Nancy Pelosi has made millions of dollars on stocks of companies that the committees she sits on regulate.
Wow, that's not a
Imagine
complex.
Imagine that.
Her husband made millions recently.
That's my guess too, David.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, just recently they're adding a bunch of employees like tax collectors.
188,000 government jobs were added last month.
So, as I say, the government has the advantage for the government of being able to mandate that you support them, even when you don't. And no other organization can do that. If you don't like Walmart, you don't have to go there. You know, you can go someplace else, or you can go less, or whatever. You can use as much Walmart as you want, but you can't use as much government as you want. They will define how much government you will pay for, whether you use it or not. Yeah, and that's dangerous. That's part of the problem that we have here. Let's see. It's probably a little too little time for me to get into my subject here, and I don't think Eva's ready for hers. Are you?
No, about 10 or 15 minutes. Keep
Okay.
ranting about something.
I
Oh,
keep ranting.
daily public service announcement. Arizona sucks rocks.
Okay. First of all, anyone got any questions that you know? If you have a particular question, go ahead and pop up. Yeah, it's just more honest, Jeff.
I think the mob was more honest.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The mob is more honest.
Yeah,
They
the
just-
mob, if you wanted to expand your concrete business or something, they give you the money to expand as long as they got their cut.
Yeah.
They'd help finance you.
Yeah.
The mob actually had a better deal than going than what we got.
They're a lot more honest. They generally kept their promises.
Yeah. And expected you to keep yours too.
They pretty much enforced that, from what I understood. Anyhow, so how do you get your high banker to make gold? It's magic. You put it in the magic spot, and you throw the magic dirt in it, and magically the gold will appear. Now, I've heard it's kind of hard to find the magic spot, although there's a lot of spots that have a little bit of magic in them. But if you get real lucky, you'll find a spot with a lot of magic in it, and then you can really make a lot of gold. But it's all into the magic, and it has something to do with fluid flows too, but that's magic also. But anyhow, so things are going pretty well. How's it looking in your exploration stuff? You look like permits are going to come through.
I have no idea. I mean,
are they like assisting you monetarily during this exploration phase?
No.
Man, you need a better negotiator.
Well,
that's all I can say.
We're working with one company right now that looks like they're probably going to take this project. So there'll be a payday somewhere along the line.
Oh, Patrick.
War with my counsel.
Yeah,
Got it.
Patrick,
Got it.
it is so cool.
This is cool. We're keeping it as an investment right now because we think that compared to the U.S. dollar, it will probably increase in value in the near future.
Thank you very much, Patrick. It's really cool.
Jeff, what kind of yardage are you talking about as far as, I mean, are you just running a high banker or running a plant? If you're running a plant, what we did is we would run like anywhere between 16 and 24 feet of sluice. And then every 24 hours, we'd only clean the top half of the sluice. And we'd let the bottom half of the sluices run and clean them like once a week.
Okay, for a high banker.
Okay, for efficiency. High banker, I'd suggest that you try to run, 6 to 8 feet, ideally 8 to 10. If once you're on some property where you're getting gold, having a short sluice as far as identifying an area that has gold, that's great. But then I would definitely lengthen out the sluice.
I'd say as long as it takes, so the bottom of the sluice doesn't have any gold in it, whatever that is.
Well, the idea is to catch the fine stuff that you don't normally see in your sluice. The longer that sluice is, the more likely you're going to get that fine gold to come out of suspension and stick down into that, miner's moss or whatever you're using.
And also change it up a little bit along the route too, right?
Oh yeah, it doesn't hurt to change. I ran somewhere. I ran miner's moss in the top, and then I ran gold hog mat in a section, and then went back to miner's moss and expanded metal or something. Yeah, having some changes in the box doesn't necessarily hurt anything. The biggest thing is really dialing that recovery into where if it's going through your box in the gravel, you want to get 98% of that gold. You're doing all the work. You might as well try to get all the gold.
Now, if you have, excluding the really, really fine stuff, you said 98%. What do you consider to be the reasonable recovery rate from a placer operation?
Your recovery should be 90% or better.
Okay.
Unless you have a problem, with some really heavy black sands that are carrying, or
Real
something
fine, flaky
really
gold.
fine gold where you may have to go to a jig setup or something like that to get that flash separation. A concentrator maybe instead of a jig, but you need the gold to prove that that's worth adding too. If it costs you $100 to add a component and it only yields you $10 worth of profit, it's not real economical either. Then you might as well just get the gold that you get instantly and the hell with the rest.
Well, you usually can do that just with a pan, right?
Yeah, a pan is your testing tool.
Yeah.
You start with a gold pan and you literally end with a gold pan pretty much in gold mining.
That sounds like something on a tombstone.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, Chris. I'm not disagreeing with that. It goes into my later dissertation.
As long
on
as the as
leaching.
long as the sluice is, you got it calibrated for your fall and your water control is right. If you're pushing too much water, there's a chance you can throw out gold. Usually that's a pretty extreme amount of water. The biggest thing is velocity in the box at that point, changing your velocity, which is your pitch in your box.
See, that's one of the
But
things.
once it's dialed in and you can go down below that box and pan the tailings and you're not finding anything to look at, there's a good chance, as long as you keep continually test that factor, you're going to be in that 90+% recovery.
Yeah. And Chris brings up a point that sometimes you'll run over one sluice, then run it over a classifier and run it over a different configured sluice, the finer material.
Yeah. There's a lot of combinations you can do that, and that really depends on material. Some material, the gold will fall right out of, really easy to catch. The next place you're at, you've got clay or you got some heavy black sands, or we had one. We were down. A friend of mine had a placer that was a carbonate lime or carbonate lead. It was a carbonate lead deposit on one side of the drainage and the gold bearing granite on the other side. And the amount of lead, this carbonate lead he'd get in his sluice box, just plugged it constantly. And then not only that, but trying to get the gold to separate out of the lead was another huge problem because of the amount of carbonate lead that he had. It was really a fun one to work on because it's like you'd fix one problem and create another one.
I did find out that 500 mesh tungsten powder I got.
Yeah.
Once you mix that with your microfine gold, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're getting good luck getting separation. Well, that's how that property Jim was. It was
guess what the density of tungsten is?
probably right by gold, about 19 or something.
19.1, same as
Yeah,
gold.
okay. I was gonna say, I know it's close.
Yeah, I think
I don't
think
know
you're
if
right,
they
Chris.
kept. I don't know that he was keeping the lead because it was a natural carbonate lead. I mean, it wasn't in the atmosphere it was in. It wasn't hurting anything, but it sure made the cleanups and getting gold separation in the plant a lot. We had to really babysit and get everything just right to keep it catching the gold, but dumping some of the lead.
Well, David, in that case, you need to do some more research on what actually works with your sluice and everything. Try different things, different matting, different ratios of water to solids, different flow rates, different angles. Then, see what you can do. If it's not sluicing, if it's really fine, then you may have to go to something else to get it. There are other ways.
David, in that case, and I don't usually bring this up a lot, but what I would do with my tailings after I ran them, got the gold out like the first time, and maybe some of it I reran twice on the table or something. Anything after that, I set up my own little amalgamation circuit, because to sit with the blue bowl and a magnet and clean out the magnetics and fight with the babysitting for the amount of gold that you get was so slow. It took forever.
Didn't you just go to the table after that, though?
I would do the table. We'd do a cleanup sluice, and then those mats would go to the table, and any coarse gravel would get run back through the sluice again.
Yeah.
And then on the table, you've got a 3-part separation,
Mm-hmm.
and usually 2 and 3 we would just rerun on the table
Yeah.
to make sure.
Yeah.
Redundancy is your best friend in gold mining by far. Redo until there's nothing left.
Yeah, just repeat it.
Those, when I get to that level of the concentrates have been run at least once or twice, I would barrel them up, and then was my winter project. Sit in the shed, thaw them out, and start doing a little bit at a time. I'd have the blue ball running. Some of it I'd have retable it, but I set up a small amalgamation circuit too, and just amalgamated out some of that really fine gold that's literally like smoke in water. I mean, it's such fine particle gold that you can't really get it to collect it. It'll keep carrying in the water flow.
David, I have never seen a spiral beat
No,
other stuff.
I would I was not happy with the spiral wheel. I've used one. If you got coarse gold, they actually work pretty good. The minute you start throwing in some heavy hematite sand or magnetite, you could run that stuff through a gold wheel 15 times and you will still get gold out of it every time.
Yeah.
A spiral wheel is just not the answer.
Well, and this, I'll get into more of it after the tinfoil hat report, but this is where leaching comes in handy too, because the easiest gold to catch with gravity is the coarse gold.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to catch is the fine gold.
Yep.
With leaching, it's exactly the opposite. The fine gold is the easiest stuff to get. So they're complementary. One or the other will work the best on the ore, or one after the other. Typically, you do a gravity first, then the leaching, so that they're each getting their own portion of the gold, and there's not a whole lot of overlap between them. And that's
10-minute warning
very
there.
common. 2-minute warning.
10 minutes.
10-minute warning.
She told me this time. 10 minutes.
10-minute
Sweet.
warning.
And you've got to get ready to open up my box because you know I'm hopeless at opening them.
We have another unboxing. Oh, that's another thing too. What was this one? This gentleman here.
That one,
Frank. Okay. The box that Eva opened last week, I attributed to someone named Kansas. And I found out I was wrong. I got 2 emails roughly the same time asking for the address. So it was not Kansas. It was Frank H. from Colorado.
this one's
It was a
Kansas.
very, very nice box of stuff for Eva. There was some really nice stuff in here. And I am so sorry that I neglected to get it right. I mean, you know.
Oh, and everybody,
piece
I'm
of
going to get
labrador.
my crystal garden set up sometime this week, and Bear will take a video of it.
But anyhow, so those were a lot of really nice things. Where is that? Look at the size of that garnet. Holy Toledo. But anyhow, it was very, very nice, and it was my error. I apologize. When I got the other box in that she's going to open today, and it said Kansas on it, I'm like, oh, oopsie. So that was my mistake, and I really apologize, Frank. Hey, I screw up from time to time. Watch my videos this week. You'll see.
Patrick was asking about getting the gold out of your leach, which you're going to go over tonight.
I'll get into more of that later. Right now, we haven't even started the process of testing the various methodologies, because before you get to the recovery from solution stage, you need to get to the separating the solution from the solid stage. And we're making some interesting discoveries there. There's just a lot of different ways it can be done, and some are more complex. And as usual, the more complex ones are usually the more efficient too. So we shall have to see exactly how everything really works in the real world. I will say this, that Eco Gold X seems to be doing very, very well at recovery. I say right now I'm up to 93% in 24 hours, which is very, very good indeed. So that has a lot to do with the very small size of the gold, but also the Eco Gold X seems to work pretty good. It's going to take a while to get this figured out. I'm figuring that if we get a pilot scale mill going by the end of this season, we'll be doing pretty good, just because there's so much to learn.
Yep. I agree, Chris. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it seems to work pretty
This
easily.
ore seems to be working really well with that product.
Yeah. So I say we got a number of different things to test out and define. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the Eco Gold X needs, but I tell you, it's operating well below the manufacturer's recommended, I think it was 10.5 or 11. I thought it was 11 to
I think
11.5.
it was
is what he
11.
wanted.
Yeah, 11. He wanted
And it works better less than that for this particular ore. This is also another reason why you always try things carefully. That's the nice thing about having laboratory scale stuff. You can play games just to see what happens because it doesn't cost you crap if it doesn't work. As long as it doesn't blow up or catch a fire, that's pretty much no big deal. Let's see, how much gold is in one of those bottles? Let's see here. So, if we're taking about 50 cents, just roughly 50 cents per sample. Now, we're paying $25 for a test.
Right.
So the actual gold losses are insignificant. I'm using less than a gram, so it's 454 at $9 a kilogram. Gosh, 10 grams out of a kilogram is 1/100th, 9 cents for the chemical.
Yeah.
So wow, we're up to 59 whole cents.
Yeah. If
Per
you have a
test.
failure.
Yeah. I say it seems to be working very well with this particular ore. And you have a lot of things you have to check as you go. First of all, the first thing is, does it actually work? Does it dissolve the gold? Answer to that appears to be yes. We got some double checks going on. Yes, I know a kilogram is 1,000 grams. 1,000 grams, 1 gram is 1/1000th, and there was $9 per kilogram. So 1,000th of $9 would be what? 0.9 cents, maybe?
Yeah,
Whatever.
a penny.
Not crap. Okay, use technical terms. We're running about 1 gram per sample at most, although I start out with a half a gram and then add about 1/4 of a gram. It's actually 0.6 grams to start and then 0.3 grams, booster shots on the longer term stuff. If I don't even know if I need it. We shall see what happens with this test here, because some stuff got the booster, some didn't, etc. So I could play some with the data, the rough data, and I've still got 5 samples sitting over there that I haven't sent off yet. Because once I get the preliminary samples back, I can decide which ones I want to send off and save some money. The boss basically said, "Can we keep this under $1,000?" I'm like, probably. Let me be careful here. So. Yeah, something around there at this point, Jeff. As I say, the economics are looking pretty reasonable. And we'll have to see what the scale up is, but the chemical cost is not a deal breaker at this point. That's for sure. $25 per analysis, and that's just to get the gold. Chris is working to see if he can come up with a calorimetric titration, where basically you add some stuff, the gold precipitates out of solution, and depending on how dark the color is, gives you a good idea how much gold is in there. And that is not highly precise, but for process control, a lot, almost nothing, those are useful numbers to be able to do if you can do it yourself in seconds for pennies. Very useful. Why don't you add a pay tab to chat? A, I don't know how. B, we're doing okay right now. We've got the what do you call it? PayPal. We've got the Patreon. Also the super chats. I think YouTube gets like 30% of those. I prefer not to help YouTube. And that's true too, Leo. Yeah. So I say there's a lot of things we're still trying to define and get working here on this. We're developing processes. My thought is, Chris, assuming that my verification test runs good, this next sample that comes back, I think I better see about ordering like a 25 kilogram bag of the Eco Gold X, because when I start getting into bulk samples, it'll burn up fast. And also, at the same time, see if I can get those titration chemicals. I don't know what has happened. He hasn't answered my email on that, so I'm really not sure what's going on. But I don't want to run out of this chemical. If he disappears into the night, so to speak, I want to be able to take it down to a lab and have them duplicate it.
Yeah.
I could probably do that, Chris. But anyhow, so that's basically, we've got a lot of stuff to figure out here. Think of it as like building a sand buggy, okay, engine works, okay, and the transaxle works. Now, what kind of a front end are we going to put on it? What kind of a frame are we going to have? 2 or 4 seats? What kind of steering? What kind of tires? Exactly.
Yep.
May have to, Chris. We shall have to see. But anyhow, a lot of work to do there yet, and you guys will get to watch over our shoulders while we do it to get an idea how it's done. And standard caveat, it's all very much ore dependent. So the numbers I generate are not necessarily going to apply to your ore, but to have a non-toxic leaching solution, or at least a very modestly toxic, is kind of nice because I can work in my kitchen without super special precautions like I would be with cyanide. Bleach is a pretty toxic chemical.
That could work too.
I don't know. I think the shipping cost is pretty high on that, but go ahead and check out on it if you want. Yep. It's fine with me, Chris. We got good ventilation. Nothing has been smelling at all, and you can smell the H2S when it's in small concentration. So, yeah. But as I say, it is kind of nice not having to go out to the ranch every day to work on stuff. I can just do it here. When even I went to the Montana Bee this weekend, Eva wanted to get out of town. And considering the circumstances, I'd really like to do whatever Eva wants to do whenever possible. And I'm like, but I'm right in the middle of a 32-hour bottle roll. So I call up this poor Jim here and said, could you go to my apartment tomorrow, this evening? This was just Saturday. And just as late as you can make it comfortably and just take a sample out of that thing rolling on the porch there, which he did. And I thank you very much. So that freed us up. And we were able to do a lot more there.
2 things at once.
Yeah, but if you can't smell it at all, the concentrations are pretty darn small. It goes through for people who are not familiar, hydrogen sulfide is that kind of rotten eggs kind of stuff you smell. But when it gets to a certain level, your nose can no longer smell it. So if you smell it and you're not sure that it's going to maintain a safe thing, you need to get out and ventilate and stuff, because when you stop smelling it, now it's into the dangerous concentrations.
No, it's not good.
Terry, obedient man, okay? Come on. I just love her, and so I like getting out in the field too. This sitting around playing on the computer while bottles roll on the porch is really kind of tedious. I'd rather be swinging a pick, which, by the way, I did last week too.
Yeah.
Notice that ditch is all dead.
Yeah. Cleaned up.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's right around your 10-minute mark, little one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so there'll be a lot we're doing. I do have my um, air tester that I can run too. If I ever
Okay.
start having an issue, I can set that up. I do. I've got the 4-gas analyzer.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're going to turn it over to Eva.
Oh, the tinfoil hat goddess is in the house.
Hi, everybody. So, I got another box. This one comes from Kansas Dawn. And Bear is doing the knifey thingy because I'm like all hopeless at undoing boxes, people.
This has got that reinforced.
In the bottles, Mohammed, is some of the ore that he has and a chemical called Eco Gold X, which is for leaching the gold out. Hi, Patrick. Hi, David.
It dissolves the gold.
It dissolves the gold. This is my box. Well, let's see what we got here. We got a cool foamy thingy. I'll find a use for it.
Please don't. I got a trash can.
Ooh. Ooh. This is cool. It's got some lovely formations on it. Bear will do the honors, but there's some really interesting stuff on this rock. I'm liking this. Oh, this is cool. Yeah,
I grabbed the
it's
wrong-
buggy and it's bubbly and it's got a lot of
grabbed the
almost
wrong one on the
agate
table
quality
outside.
to it.
On the table outside, there should be
Another loop.
Yeah, one's the light that works.
And here's another really beautiful one. This one very much looks agatized. Very, very pretty. Hi, Jason. Oh,
I'm not sure what the black mineral is. It's obviously,
this is very nice.
Polycrystalline
Very
quartz.
small crystals all over it. Very pretty.
this is vein material, all right.
These are really beautiful. Oh, cool.
Yeah, these surfaces here.
Oh, and I got a beautiful card. It says, "We heart Eva." I'm hearted. Sending you the best. As you can see from our rocks, there was volcanic activity. Yes,
There's a lot of
it is beautiful.
quartz crystals that were deposited from solution here.
And it is a beautiful, beautiful card. Oh, it's so pretty. Thank you. Thank you. So nice. Aren't they beautiful, Bear?
Ooh, this is really pretty under magnification.
Yeah.
Look at that one. Yes, light away from the eye.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Reminds me almost of lace agate, the way it forms.
Yeah. Essentially what it is.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. Woohoo! I got rocks. I love getting rocks. Rocks are so cool. And I'm going to set up my crystal garden this week so that the rocks will all have a happy place to live together. Hi, Smokin'. How are you? Mohammed wants to know if the leech work is similar to mercury. Not really. It's a whole lot better than mercury because it won't turn you mentally ill or cause retardation problems and such.
Well, no,
Mercury is very, very bad stuff.
it works entirely different.
And it works entirely different.
I'll be doing, once Eva is over, I'll be doing a presentation on leaching in general and why it works and how it works and all that other stuff. So if you can hang in there, Mohammed, until she's done, I will go over that in great detail.
By the way, if I keep wiping my face, it's because there's this odd sweating thing going on. I have no idea why, but I've been sweating a lot more than usual. And they may say that ladies don't sweat, we glisten. They're full of it, okay? When you're soaking your clothes, you are not glistening. Trust me on this one. So basically, There's been some interesting things going on in the lithium world. For some reason, maybe it has to do with all this green nonsense. Everybody is really on the lithium train at the moment. Now, copper prices did fall this week amid COVID-19 worries because there's apparently the Delta variant and possible mine closures and everything else going on. And they are currently reviewing copper and nickel guidance amid labor and climate issues in various places, so that could be interesting too. I will be keeping an eye on copper, but this week in the lithium world, Tesla weighed in on this. Our old friend Elon Musk, the dude that's doing the whole Skynet, Starlink stuff going on there, has apparently decided to get into lithium. And he filed a new patent related to acid-free saline lithium extraction process that was mentioned by Elon Musk during Battery Day, September 2020. Titled Selective Extraction of Lithium from Clay Minerals, the patent states that extracting lithium from ore using sodium chloride as an environmentally friendlier way to obtain the metal compared to currently used techniques such as acid leaching. According to Tesla, it also allows for higher recoveries. So apparently table salt is involved here. In detail, the process allows for extracting lithium from clay mineral and compositions by mixing a cation source with the clay mineral, performing a high-energy mill of the clay mineral, and performing a liquid leach to obtain a lithium-rich leach solution. Following the release of this information, Canadian miner Spearmint Resources reminded Musk that not far away from his Gigafactory 1 in Nevada, the Clayton Valley lithium clay project is being developed with the goal of supplying the local market. In a press release, Spearmint emphasized it has already received the technical report for the project, which includes a maiden resource estimate of 815,000 indicated tons and 191,000 inferred tons, for a total of 1,006,000 tons of lithium carbonate equivalent. According to Spearmint, its field team has only drilled a small number of holes to date to achieve this maiden resource and thus anticipates the additional targeted drilling will increase the initial calculations. In terms of cost, recovery, and revenue, the miner estimated that to derive a base case cutoff grade for eventual lithium carbonate product, mining costs would be $2 a ton. Processing costs would be $15 a ton. Processing recovery would be 80%, and revenue would be $10,000 per ton for the lithium carbonate product. Right next to Spearmint's property, fellow Canadian Cypress Development is developing its Clayton Valley Lithium Project, which, according to the company, hosts a world-class resource of lithium-bearing claystone adjacent to a brine field to the east and south of Angel Island, an outcrop of Paleozoic carbonates protruding up through the lakebed sediments. Pit-constrained resources at the projects include 929.6 million measured and indicated tons, grading 1,062 parts per million lithium. Inferred resources add 100.4 million tons at 986 parts per million lithium. And there's another big mine right down the road, by the way, the Silver Peak, owned by Albemarle, the world's